In the year 2040, the world was not as it used to be. Cities lay in ruins, overrun by the undead. The outbreak that started in a small town had spread quickly, turning millions into zombies. These weren't ordinary zombies, they began to evolve. They were faster, smarter, and hungrier than before. This story follows a small group of survivors who must navigate this new threat. In a crumbling apartment building in what used to be New York City, a group of 6 survivors gathered. There was Jake, the leader, who had a talent for making quick decisions. Mia, a brave medic, always carried her doctor's bag. Greg, a tall man with a strong build, had a way with weapons. Lucy, a quick thinker and tech expert, could hack into any system. The twins, Sam and Max, were only 14 but showed remarkable resourcefulness. One night, they huddled together, eating canned beans. They knew they had to plan their next move. The supermarket nearby might hold much needed supplies, but it was crawling with zombies. "We need to gather more food before we run out," Jake said, looking around at his friends. Mia nodded. "But it's too risky. The zombies are different now. They're learning how to ambush us." She had been watching them from their hideout. The zombies were not just walking aimlessly anymore, they were aligning, making plans to corral the living. "I can set up a distraction," Lucy suggested. "I can use a drone to lure them away from the store." The others exchanged glances. This could work. The next day, armed with makeshift weapons, the group set out. Lucy brought her drone, and they made their way to the supermarket. They took the alleyways, moving quietly. As they reached the store, they could see the zombies moving around, their eyes sunken and their clothes tattered. "Here goes nothing," Lucy whispered and activated her drone. The small device whirred to life and flew toward the sound of distant sirens down the street. The zombies noticed and began to shuffle in that direction. "Now!" Jake yelled. They rushed into the supermarket, grabbing whatever they could carry. Canned goods, water bottles, even a few packs of chips. The group filled their backpacks, speed being key. Suddenly, they heard a loud crash. The drone had gone down, and the zombies were returning. Panic filled the air. They turned to escape, but more zombies seemed to emerge from the shadows. "Over there!" Sam shouted, pointing to an emergency exit. They raced toward it, narrowly avoiding a grasping hand. As they pushed the door open, they saw a group of zombies blocking their path. "No!" Greg grunted and swung his bat, knocking one aside. They needed another way out. Max spotted a fire escape ladder. "Up there!" he yelled. Climbing quickly, they reached the roof. From up high, they could see the streets filled with zombies wandering aimlessly. But off in the distance, a plume of smoke rose into the sky. "What's going on over there?" Mia wondered. "I think it's a fire," Lucy replied. "If we can reach that area, we can find help." The group decided to make their way toward the smoke, hoping to escape the zombies below. As they descended the fire escape, they heard groans from below. A small group of zombies had gathered. "We can't go down there," Max said, fear reflecting in his eyes. "Let's try the rooftop," Jake suggested. They moved across the rooftops, jumping from one to another. The sun began to set, casting shadows over the city. When they reached the area of the smoke, they found an old warehouse. It seemed abandoned, but they heard voices coming from inside. They approached cautiously and peeked through a broken window. Inside, a group of survivors were gathered. They looked stronger, more prepared than Jake's group. One man, wearing a tactical vest, was giving orders. "We need to make a stand," he barked. "Should we go in?" Greg asked, looking at Jake. Jake studied the men inside. "We need allies. Let's do it." He knocked on the door, and the man opened it, looking suspicious. "Who are you?" the man asked, eyeing their gear. "We're survivors," Jake responded. "We need help." The man's expression softened, and he stepped aside. "Come in. We could use more hands." Once inside, they learned that the new group had been organizing a plan to fight back against the evolving zombies. "They're adapting," the man stated. "But we're working on a way to stop them. We've found a weakness." Excited and nervous, Jake's group listened as they planned their next move. They discovered the zombies were attracted to sound and light. The group devised a plan to set up distractions across the city to draw the zombies away from areas where the survivors could gather supplies and fortify their refuge. That night, they worked together, building defenses, gathering supplies, and training. As they worked, Sam and Max bonded with the new kids from the warehouse, discovering styles of play and laughter among the fear. Just as the sun began to rise, an alarming roar echoed from the streets. The zombies had found a way into the warehouse. "Rally up!" Jake yelled. Everyone grabbed their weapons and prepared for a fight. The air filled with screams and loud bangs as the zombies broke in. Greg swung his bat with all his strength, pushing the creatures back while Mia helped the wounded. Lucy and the twins worked together to barricade the entrance. The battle was chaotic, but they held their ground. In the heat of the struggle, they noticed something odd. The zombies were beginning to retreat. "They've changed their strategy," one of the men shouted. "Let's push them out." With renewed strength, they fought until the last of the zombies fell back into the streets. Breathing heavily, they looked around at the destruction and chaos. "We survived," Mia sighed, a mix of relief and exhaustion washing over her. Jake turned to the group, newfound determination in his eyes. "We're stronger together. We have to fight, not just for ourselves but for everyone else still out there." The sun rose, illuminating the ruins of the city, as the group united, ready to face the evolving threat head-on. They knew the fight was far from over, but together, they felt hope rise like dawn in this dark world. The year is 2077. A strange virus, dubbed Necrosis Alpha, had swept the globe, turning millions into shambling, flesh-eating zombies. But these weren't your grandpappy zombies. These were evolving. Dr. Eris Thorne, a brilliant but disgraced geneticist, watched the news reports with a grim expression. He'd warned everyone. He'd seen the data, the terrifying potential for Necrosis Alpha to adapt, to become something far more dangerous. His warnings were dismissed as the ramblings of a madman. Now, the world was paying the price. The initial zombie outbreaks were brutal, but predictable. The undead craved brains, flesh, anything organic. They were slow, easily dispatched with a well-placed shot. But something had changed. The reports were coming in from different parts of the world: faster zombies, smarter zombies, zombies exhibiting coordinated behavior. Eris had a small team working in a hidden underground bunker, a refuge from the surface world now overrun by the evolved undead. His team consisted of Maya, a skilled combat medic, and Ben, a tech whiz whose job was to monitor and analyze the changing nature of the zombies. "The latest scans show increased brain activity," Ben announced, his voice tight with worry. He tapped on a holographic display, showing images of zombie brains, significantly more active than before. "They're learning." Maya, her face grim, checked her medical kit. "Learning to hunt more effectively, probably. We've already seen increased speed and coordination in their attacks." Eris paced the room, running a hand through his thinning gray hair. "It's the protein synthesis," he muttered. "Necrosis Alpha is mutating, creating new proteins that enhance their cognitive functions." The most alarming development was their dietary shift. The zombies were no longer solely focused on human flesh. They were consuming anything organic: plants, animals, even decaying matter. This meant their numbers were growing at an alarming rate, fueled by a broader food source. Their first major encounter with these evolved zombies occurred during a supply run to an abandoned military base. The team was ambushed. These zombies were different. They were faster, more agile, their movements almost fluid. They communicated with each other, using low growls and hisses that sent shivers down Maya's spine. Maya's medical skills were crucial. She managed to patch up Ben after a zombie ripped his arm. The fight was brutal, a chaotic ballet of gunfire, screams, and the sickening crunch of bone. Eris, surprisingly nimble for his age, used a modified cane equipped with a taser to stun the zombies, buying them precious time. They barely escaped with their lives. But the experience solidified their fear. These weren't just mindless creatures anymore. They were predators, evolving and adapting to survive, learning from their mistakes, hunting in packs. Back in the bunker, Eris worked tirelessly. He had to find a way to counter this new threat. He studied the necrosis alpha virus, searching for a weakness, a vulnerability. Days bled into weeks, the tension in the bunker palpable. Ben continued monitoring the zombies, tracking their movements, their patterns. He discovered that their diet was not just wider but more selective. They were actively seeking out specific nutrients, indicating a sophisticated biological adaptation. They weren't just eating to survive, they were evolving to become stronger, faster, smarter. One day, Ben cracked the code. He discovered a pattern in their feeding habits. They were targeting specific plants rich in certain rare minerals. Eris realized that these minerals were key to their enhanced cognitive functions, almost like a catalyst for their evolution. This discovery provided a crucial piece of the puzzle. If they could deny the zombies access to these minerals, they could potentially halt, or even reverse, their evolution. The problem was, these plants were widespread, almost impossible to eradicate. Eris conceived a daring plan. They would use a modified virus, a counteragent, to target the specific metabolic pathways responsible for the zombies' absorption of the minerals. It was a high-risk, high-reward gamble. Failure meant total annihilation. The execution of the plan was fraught with peril. They had to reach the major plant growth zones, deploy the counteragent, and escape before the hordes of evolved zombies descended upon them. It was a race against time. Maya's combat skills and Ben's technical expertise were crucial. They fought their way through zombie hordes, dodged traps, navigated the ruins of a once great city. Eris, guided by Ben's real-time data, led them through a maze of abandoned tunnels and crumbling buildings. They reached the target area and deployed the counteragent. The immediate effects were subtle, almost imperceptible. But over time, the reports started to come in. Zombies were becoming slower, less coordinated, their intelligence dwindling. They had done it. They had turned back the tide. The fight was far from over. The world was still ravaged, the zombies still a threat. But they had bought humanity time, a chance to rebuild, to fight back. The future remained uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, a glimmer of hope pierced the darkness. The evolving zombies had been stopped, at least for now.